Eveline, isn't she the cutest? She has her mother's eyes, is what I would be saying if she wasn't created in the lab and genetically modified for warfare. This is the real baby Eveline, codenamed E-001. Her life began in a lab owned by a crime syndicate called the Connections, created in a place where feelings were an afterthought and instinct was everything. From the very start, Eveline knew only one thing: need. A need for closeness, a need for warmth, and most importantly, a need for an emotional bond. That was her voice, the id. No one taught Eveline how to slow down that voice. They only cared about what she can do. No one taught her patience or boundaries or how to sit with fear. They gave her power instead. And like most children who in history have acquired great power, tend to abuse it.
Bring me his head.
So when her body aged faster than her mind, when the world moved too quickly for her heart to keep up, that caused a massive amount of trauma on top of what she already had. Her need for connection, coincidence? I think not, only grew much more louder. Then she met Mia, and for the first time, Eveline's need had somewhere to land. Mia wasn't her mom, but she fit the bill. So Eveline attached herself, but not gently, rather forcefully, out of desperation. And with doing that, a second voice began to form. A fragile one, the ego. The part of Eveline that tries to make sense of the world, because the human mind is weird. Let's face it. It's evolved to always look for patterns in the world, and that's the way we survived. Long ago, this is our basic instinct. We learned what was safe, we learned what stayed, and we learned what disappeared. That instinct never left us. And for Eveline, the ego became the voice searching for patterns, trying to understand what would protect her, what would keep her alive, what would make people stay. So yes, Eveline tried to control everything. Childhood trauma would do that to you, but it's less about being a control freak and more about survival and feeling emotionally okay in her world. The ego told her stories. If I stay close, she won't leave because I'll be right there with her. If I behave like a daughter, I'll be kept and loved. If I build a family, I'll be safe. Family look out for each other. So when the ship sank and they washed ashore in Louisiana, Eveline got the opportunity of a lifetime. A house, a family-shaped space, something she could fill. The Baker family became Eveline's attempt at emotional regulation. Jack, Marguerite, Lucas all had their assigned roles, whether they wanted to or not, because Eveline's ego was putting in that work to quiet down her screaming id, trying to convince her, see, no one is leaving. Relax, sweetie. Everything's gonna be okay. But there was a third voice Eveline never developed, the superego. The voice that teaches us right from wrong. The voice that says, I don't think you should, instead of hell yeah. No one taught Eveline morality, only obedience. So when fear appeared, for example, like the hurricane, I'm sure it really frightened Eveline. She didn't know how to overcome it or much how to express these emotions. She didn't have the words or the tools to do it. So the fear found another way out. It expressed itself through her ability, through the mold. What she couldn't process, she released. That's why I believe she was throwing up so much on that ship. She was just letting all the emotions out. So when Ethan arrived at the house, everything Eveline had built began to crack. Eveline's plan to bring Ethan into the family did not play out how she thought it would. Some ideas are better in our heads. The disruption Ethan caused had her ego scrambling for answers. If I make him part of the family, if he stays, then Mia will stay too, and everything will be all good. But Ethan refused, somehow resisting Eveline's influence. This is a problem Evelyn has never faced before. And with every refusal, the ego weakened. And when the ego fails, the id takes over. Need become rage, and like all angry children, tantrums are thrown. With increased fear comes the increased need to control everything. Love becomes twisted into possession. The house begins to breathe, walls rotted. This is what happens when Evelyn becomes unhinged. Her strongest voice, the id, is screaming at her, take and do what is needed to feel good, and damn the consequences. As time passed, Evelyn's body twisted into something older. She doesn't have her cootie shot, so she can't keep her cells from aging. And this definitely affects her in a massive way. Her old age symbolizes something: resentment, shame, and bitterness for never truly being able to enjoy life. From beginning to end, it was just about survival and trying to feel emotionally okay. And the fact that she's going to die a virgin didn't help either. The id exhausted, this ego shattered. Her superego never showed up to the function. Only suffering is available. In the final battle, you're basically fighting a 10-year-old. Evelyn doesn't charge you or use any other over-the-top attacks. She just pushes you away. Exactly something a scared 10-year-old would do. She uses hallucinations, distortions, reality bending, and all types of tricks in her book. Just enough to keep you from getting too close. When she transforms into a huge mold monster, her attacks aren't necessarily about killing you. They're about getting you to stop hurting her. She grabs and she slaps, but never any move truly deadly or meant for killing, I would say. She lashes out with confusion instead of force. Is this something a monster trying to win would do? I think not. Is but a child covering their ears when the answers hurt too much. Now let's talk about the symbolism of her mold monsters. Now she has her standard molded. It's Evelyn's basic needs. At first glance, the basic molded all look the same, but some reach for you with bare blunted hands, and others comes with claws already formed, and that difference matters. The molded without claws don't look equipped to kill. They stumble forward, they reach, almost like they're still trying to touch, not tear. Psychologically, these represents Evelyn's raw needs before it turns into aggression. But after all the fail reach attempts, the only next option is to grab and hold. This is where the ego steps in to help the situation. Let's give it claws. So if you do reach, you can grab, claw in, and not let go. The basic molded is Evelyn's need for family and love, given life and legs, and they are sent out to make that happen. Now the four-legged molded, she creates these when she starts to panic. Scraping, sudden movements. Like the emotion panic, it's very spasmic and unpredictable. No posture or patience, it's just scrambling. When Ethan is disrupting things more and more, her id starts to panic. So her ego creates these four-legged molded in response to help quell the panicking id. You know, the feeling of panic can feel quite animalistic. Like every animal on this planet, we too have fight or flight instincts. In this case, Evelyn's flight or flight instincts is brought to life through the four-legged molded. Now the fat molded is Evelyn's emotional buildup taking form. Holding all that emotion in, fear, anger, hate, love, all of it was just too much, and it was begging for a way out. So the ego again responds, okay, let's see, what can we do here? All right, we can put all this feelings into the fat molded. So all her feelings that had nowhere to go, no one to truly talk to, went into these molded. Having too much emotions and now no positive way to release them is going to eventually bottle up and it's going to eventually explode. It slows you down and it keeps you down. Now the crawling molded. The crawling ones is Evelyn's anxiety taking form. Just like the feeling anxiety, it often creeps up on you and feels like someone really cringe is whispering in your ear. You ain't shit. You don't deserve to be loved. These were the Evelyn's thoughts at night, the ones that never sleep. And so these are why, and so the ego, again, their solution is to create these little creepy crawlies for Evelyn's anxiety. Now, the white molded, the one of the strongest ones in the game, is Evelyn's fear hardening. They move slower, they hit harder, they take more punishment. And that tells you something very important. By the time the white molded appear, Evelyn isn't panicking anymore. She's just so damn tired. This is what fear looks like when it's been carried for far too long. All the frantic and explosive behavior is gone, and only the fear remains, and that fear has learned how to brace itself. The white molded represents emotional shutdown. When nothing seems to work, crying didn't work, holding on didn't work, control didn't work. None of my mold monsters are doing anything useful because you're killing all of them. So the mind does the last thing it knows how to do. It just goes numb. These monsters don't flinch because Evelyn isn't flinching anymore. She's bracing for more loss. And trauma doesn't always make you fragile. Sometimes it just makes you really rigid. The white molded are built to withstand damage because Evelyn is expecting to be hurt again. You only build armor unless you're sure something is coming. So basically, her id, through all this, her id still wants the connection, is still trying to bring people into the family. The ego, it's, he's like, you're probably not going to get this. It's probably not going to happen. Based off all the patterns and everything that has been happening, I can conclude we're most likely going to die in the end. The white molded appears at the end of the game because you're getting closer to the truth. You're getting closer to Evelyn, and they're sent to hold the line. Because if they slow you down long enough, maybe she don't have to face what's actually coming. Evelyn is what happens when a child grows up with desire, coping, and power, but never learns right from wrong. Never develops that superego. And what a tragic figure in Resident Evil. You want to hate her because she's so, she's not evil on purpose, but she does really awful things. But you have to feel for her at the same time because she didn't ask to be put into this world. And so as a kid, you don't really know how to navigate. Their biggest mistake is actually just giving her feelings. If they would have just somehow been able to cut out her feelings, maybe this Evelyn would have been a successful weapon. But that wouldn't have been a good story now, would it? Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate the love that you're showing me. And thank you for watching. I hope you have a wonderful January. Ta-ta for now.